my regular viewers, listeners, and watchers. And of course, if you happen to be here for the very first time, welcome. Before I go any further, my name is Rahul George, India's premier iHypnosis life healer coach and your personal guide. And a very, very special warm welcome to all of you tuning into our pod, the iHypnosis Life Coaching Journeys. This podcast is, of course, a curated show where we find, across the length and breadth of the country, people who are coaches and healers already on the journey. And, they started maybe not so long ago, or maybe a long while ago on the journey of healing, and now they're at that point where they want to reach out into the world and make a difference in their own special corners. So today, of course, we have a very, very special guest, and you will hear from him in a moment. So let's put our hands together and welcome in Aumlan. So Aumlan, of course, this is your cue. You can turn on your camera, and good to have you here. So first things first, warm welcome, Aumlan.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much for your warm welcome, your kind words, and deeply grateful for you having me on this show.
Awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about your journey. And of course, what's unique about our pod is that our guests get to go on live and share, their story. So I will be hearing your life's story from you in a few moments. But before we get to that, of course, when someone asks you the question, so Omlan, what do you do? Uh,
Mhm.
how do you lead?
Right. Some of the most common questions are
Uh-huh.
often not exactly the easiest ones to answer.
Sure.
To answer your question,
Mm-hmm.
see, basically, I have lived is not the right way, probably. I have been leading a life which has seen multiple ups and downs, vicissitudes, as they call them, right?
Mm,
And I've gone through a myriad curveballs,
mm,
sometimes multiple of them at a time. And one thing that has remained consistent,
mm,
and today I'm 50 plus, and
mm,
one thing that has remained consistent for me over the last, I think, 20, 25 years
mm,
has been my equation with people.
mm,
I would not, I mean, I hope I'm not boasting when I say this, but
mm.
I do not know a person who I have known and who has been critical of me and who has not liked me
Mm,
consider my greatest
mm, mm.
achievement because
Great.
everybody I have ever known has either liked me or loved me. The
Mm,
degree may change, but I have not known anybody for any length of time who has
mm,
had a negative impression of me. So that
right.
is one thing. Yeah,
Mm,
because and she may kill me when if she hears this. But my wife fell in love with me because she told me that later on that
mm,
you were the most caring person I knew.
mm. Beautiful. So maybe
Oh,
we'll start there,
yeah.
Amlan.
Yes.
Especially because we are talking to fellow coaches and healers
Mm-hmm.
or healer
Mm-hmm.
coaches like me who are
Mm-hmm.
on this journey of wanting to make a difference, right?
Yes.
So if
Yes.
I was to say, at present, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you had to describe what you do, what
Right.
would you say that is?
I am currently setting up my practice as a personal transformation partner, which
Mm,
is to say that I would
mhm,
be offering my services as a life coach
mhm,
and non clinical counselor. So, just to clarify it, in case somebody is wondering what I mean by a non
mm,
clinical counselor, that essentially means I will, what is within my scope is basic areas of some important yet not very specialized areas of counseling,
mm,
like, for example, could be career counseling.
mm,
For example, it could be children who are finding it difficult to focus on their studies, to children as in school children, and parents wanting to understand how they can make their kids pay more attention to their studies.
Got
It
it.
could be, for example, people who are doing reasonably well in life in whichever area, whichever industry, whichever field, or whichever discipline they are, but just kind of trying to figure out why they have not yet been able to make that breakthrough. In other words, maximizing their potential, right? So basically, in terms of working with people, in terms of helping them overcome their any limiting beliefs they may have, right? As I mentioned, of course, career counseling, maybe kids or youngsters wanting to thinking in terms of going abroad for higher education, what could be a good pathway for them, or whether, or in fact, whether going abroad is the right decision for them or not. Helping, because many people may have a lot of questions in their mind, right? And since I have been abroad, since I have myself studied abroad, I've done one of my master's degrees in Europe. Since I have that kind of exposure, I would be in a better place because I have myself been there, done that, right?
So
So
let me
I
pause you there
know,
because you're saying
yeah,
something very,
sure.
very powerful. Uh, you've had some life experiences or many life experiences, and I know you led with
Yes.
that. So
Hmm.
maybe, and I know you mentioned this very briefly in our prep call,
Yes.
as a setup for this, right? And you mentioned that,
Hmm.
you are uh, on your journey, you're at this early phase where you're now starting to kind of, sort of like
Hmm.
set up shop, so to speak, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm guessing that there is a much deeper story that led to this point, right?
Oh,
So, can you
definitely.
take us back in time? And, like we talk about the hero's journey, something
Hmm.
in your life led you to say, okay, I want to become this transformation coach, right? So,
Yeah.
what was that journey like? And you can go as far back as as you feel, drawn to, and take us on that journey of what were these twists and turns along the way that eventually got you to where you are today.
Right. So, as I mentioned also briefly, that my journey has been over 5 decades now. So, getting into detail for like
Sure.
at every step of the way could lead this discussion to like a pretty leaded to becoming a rather lengthy one, and some people watching this could get a little bored, which I would not want. So, I'll just keep this to the important, you know, aspects which have shaped my life. Right now, I grew up in a typical Bengali middle class family in the 1980s. Uh, now, something many people growing up today, or people, let's say folks in their 20s or even early 30s, may not know. Some people may have heard, but many people may not know, is that those days, especially middle class, very traditional conservative middle class families, those of us growing up did not really have a choice what we were to study. And if we did not do well in our exams, we got the stick. And got the stick actually literally means that, right? And my father was a, I mean, I don't mean anything, of course, I don't mean anything against him, because I know he obviously, he loved me like crazy. He was obsessed with me. He wanted me to do my best. And he always saw a lot of potential in me. And obviously, he wanted me to maximize it. But so, and that is the best path that he knew. So, and honestly, till this day, I do not have any grouse against him because I got a lot of stick. But yes, there is a little bit that still feels regret that I couldn't choose my own path. Bottom line, what I'm trying to point out through this is number one, two aspects. One, I try to explain to people whenever I get the chance that it is important to let a child choose his or her own pathway. Most families, in most families today, that is perfectly acceptable, and like everybody kind of takes that as a matter of fact. In a few rare occasions, that is still not accepted, which is what I would seek to address. Number one. Number two, Another thing I would like to share, this is another message I would like to share with everybody, and this is probably going to be consistent across a lot of dimensions and planes, is all of us, I'm sure Rahul, you would have to, I have, and I know pretty much most people would have experienced a lot of change in our perspectives, in our psyche over time. Today, Aumlan Guha at the age of 50 is totally different from what I was at the age of 18 or 19 or 20. In my younger days, I was like, when I was that young, I was a very short-tempered person. I would kind of snap at the slightest provocation. I would lose my temper. Of course, with my father, I never dared to, but I'm just saying, with most people, I would like snap, lose my temper, etc. By the time I reached my early 40s, and there were some seminal events which happened, which led to the transformation. I'll come to those events. I had like completely changed. Forget having a short fuse. Today, I am actually blamed, right? And I would like to say this upfront, and I think it is extremely important to acknowledge it, that all of us have some issues or the other, right? I'm sure most coaches or even therapists themselves will acknowledge that they also have issues which need to be addressed, right? So I go to a counselor for some counseling. It's not that I have any serious issues, but there are some creases which need to be ironed out, right? And one thing my counselor keeps telling me is that, Aumlanda, your problem is you numb your emotions. And I'm like, no, I don't numb my emotions, right? But because I've gone through so much in life that I have kind of, in a way, it's like I tell people, if you spend 20 years in Siberia, Delhi mein thand nahi lagegi. Right? So that's what. So again, to come back to what I was saying, right? So my one important aspect was my own childhood experience when I was like kept like in the like firm grip of my dad. My mom was never like that. She was the dearest friend I ever had. My friend, philosopher, guide, my porn star. You get the drift, right? Which is why why did I say in my early 40s that was one of the seminal events? I lost her. We lost her to cancer. And when that happened, my life turned 180 degrees. Right? When I lost her, for me, it's never BC or AD. It is BM and AM, before mom and after mom. The timeline's totally, I mean, I genuinely want to share this with all the youngsters and even adults out there. As long as you have both your parents, please cherish them. Because you don't know when, because nobody is immortal. Everybody has a predefined expiry date. It's just that we don't know when or how. Right? So it's very important to cherish your parents, reach out to them, say you love them, hug them if you can. Right? This is very, very important. Now, another point. So then, then what happened? Okay, I did my first MBA, worked for a few years, blah, 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 all the regular works, right? Then at the age of 31, I married, had my daughter after some years. All that happened. That's the normal story. But the important events, one was my mom passing away. That same year, 2 months before my mom passed away, another of my closest friends passed away. And like, if I make a list, so my mom passed away in 2015, November. The other friend passed away in 2015, I think August or September. And another of my extremely close friends, for whom I was his closest confidant, who was actually my brother-in-law, he passed away in January 2020, few months before the lockdowns, right? And then the worst thing, and literally the icing on the cake, and that was literally the final straw. Last year, in June 2024, I almost passed away.
Wow.
Right? Because that time you cannot make me on camera, make out on camera but I am still quite obese. Now, till last year, I was morbidly obese. I had very high blood sugar levels. Even lipid profile was a bit messed up. And still, I was wildly indisciplined in terms of what I was eating, drinking. As in drinking, I never had hard drinks, but in terms of consuming soft drinks, I would do everything you should not be doing, right? So somebody up there said, boss, you need a bit of a wake up, because my father, my wife, my in-laws, they were constantly warning me. Now, human beings warning me, I didn't pay any attention. So when somebody up there decided to give me a warning, I was like, one day I actually collapsed at my home. My dad, who is in his late 80s, he had to rush me to a hospital in an ambulance. I was in ICU for 6 days. First 20 hours, I was completely unconscious. Woke up with a couple of tubes in my face and all that kind of scary stuff, right? So 6 days in ICU changed me totally in terms of my approach to my health, right? Then I was like, okay. And another thing which really shook me was that when I was returning to hospital, my wife showed me something my daughter had sent me on my WhatsApp. You remember that film Animal in Bollywood film Animal, Ranbir Kapoor starred?
But say it anyway.
Okay. Yeah. So there is a very touching song in that film, which goes like this: "Papa Meri Jaan." You can look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen or heard the song. When I heard that, then my wife told me, "Your daughter has dedicated the song to you."
Wow.
And something snapped. My daughter, that time she was 12. Something snapped inside me. I promised myself that by the time 52 weeks are over, I am going to ensure that I lose at least 52 kilos. So 52 kilos to hua nahi, but in the next 7 months, I lost around 32 kilos. Because that I ensured. So now after the weight loss, of course, a lot of things have stabilized. If you lose 30 plus kilos, things will stay. A lot of things will stabilize anyway. So when I literally came back from the jaws of death, because what I had developed was a condition called septic shock. The statistics for that is, even with proper treatment, only 60% people survive. So when I came back, and one of my friends who had jokingly told me, even God bhi tujhe reject kar diya. So when I came back, trust me, I returned literally. Today is what, 19th June? Right. 19th June was the day I felt sick. Literally, we are 365 days. We are on 19th June last year at night, I started developing the fever. This 19th June, I'm doing this podcast with you.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
It's literally amazing. So, and so when I returned on 30th of June from hospital, a lot of things were going on inside me. June, July, it took some 3-4 months, because I actually started thinking, this is what really got me thinking, कि अगर भगवान ने मुझे वापस भेज दिया, because I was literally first 24 hours, I was like on a one-way path. Then, like some of our politicians, I took a last-minute U-turn and I came back. So then I was thinking, if God has sent me back, there must be some purpose I am meant for. I'm not meant for this normal grind in industry. I was still last year, in fact, till April this year, I was in IT. Working typical, stuff people do just to get us salaries. I never ever saw any value in what I was doing. I did it because I needed to earn a salary. That's all. But especially from August, September onwards, till January this year, I was thinking. And in between, I also sustained a minor shoulder injury, which was also very painful. And I was again wondering, why am I going through so much pain? Why am I going through so much suffering? And all that gradually, and I was doing a lot of introspection. And then two things happened. One is, you probably know of the Success Gyan team, Success Gyan universe. So I kind of began to take coaching from Siddharth Rajshekar of Success Gyan, who is attached to Success Gyan. And then I also remembered a very good friend of mine, very, very dear friend, who from whom I had initially gone to take counseling back in the year 2020. Okay, I had gone to take counseling from him, and just in the couple of months I had taken counseling from him, I saw the immense benefit I had got. And he was using something which I had only vaguely heard of some 10, 15 years ago. But when he was doing it with me, I was thinking, man, this stuff is seriously awesome. That was something called neuro-linguistic programming. And the guy is, you may have heard of him, I don't know. He is my dear friend and today my guru. He is Mrinal Chakrabarti. I don't know if you know about him, but yeah, he's one of those who's a direct student of Dr. Richard Bandler, right? And he was in UK for some years. He learned his trade from Dr. Richard Bandler. I think he's a master trainer, NLP master trainer from Dr. Bandler. And he lives here in Kolkata, just like me, and he's a good friend. And today he's also my guru and my teacher. So I train in NLP from him. I have this kind of coaching membership from Siddharth, but I'm also doing all those programs for Success Gang. So all this is kind of helping me transform a lot. And also with Mrinal, what I'm also doing is I'm kind of, I don't know if interning is the right word, but I'm part of this ecosystem in the sense, like, for example, when he is doing his counseling, and he's been doing counseling for something like, I think, 18, 19 years, right? So obviously he's an expert. So when he does his counseling, I sit next to him, like at least once or twice a week, something like that. And I kind of observe so that I'm learning by observing how he is doing his counseling, right? So that is a tremendous opportunity, a fantastic source of learning for me, right? So all these put together, so this is what has made me the person I am. And then I finalized what I'm going to be doing. To add to that, let me share a couple of more insights. Ever since let's say even my late teens, forget my 20s and 30s. 20s and 30s, I went outside. Ever since my late teens to early 20s, or maybe even younger than that, I was. But what time? Probably in my high school, 10, 11, 12, class 10, 11, 12. That time frame. I have been an agony uncle for people in my family who, most of them, I have been mostly the youngest person in my family. For my elder brothers and sisters, and I've had a large family always. Like we grew up in a pseudo joint family. So for my elder sisters and brothers, I have been I have been a agony uncle. Then as I grew older, reached my 20s, my 30s, so many people, my friends, everybody started, and trust me, I have never actually asked people, never probed, what's the matter, kuch problem hai kya, nothing. People have felt very naturally, they felt comfortable sharing their issues with me. In fact, I think there was only one particular case where there was actually some problem with somebody I knew. Obviously, I'm not going where and what, but and where I really I wanted to know what was happening, where I asked. Other than that one particular instance, I have never ever asked somebody. People have themselves come forward to share, Aumlan, whatever, and this is what it is, blah, 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 whatever. So, and I have always, what I always do is people genuinely always look for somebody to share their problems with. But the people they are around or their own circle, they may not always feel comfortable sharing their problems with, because not everybody is naturally gifted with empathy. I consider it one of my greatest blessings that I was naturally gifted with empathy. I am probably one of my flaws is that I'm oversensitive, right? So what happens is I'll give you an extreme example, two extreme examples. One person I just met, which country, which city I'm not mentioning. One person, and male, female, not mentioning. One person I met sometime in the last 3-4 years. He or she, I met him or her for just 1 or 2 minutes, and he or she just started to blurt out all personal problems, whatever they've undergone in the last 20, 30, 40 years from their childhood and all the traumas they went. And I'm like, I'm not even sure why I'm listening to all of this. Then I stopped the person and asked, whatever, him, her, do you know? But why are you telling me? I didn't even ask you all this. So what I got to hear was no, but I just felt like sharing with you. Right? Another example, I was in Lithuania. Actually, when I said I was in Europe, I was in Lithuania, in the capital city of Vilnius. I had taken a cab to go from place A to place B. So that journey, typically journeys there would not take more than 15, 20 minutes because the entire city is pretty small, right? So that particular journey was taking 20 minutes. And that cabbie, I've never met him before. I've never met him after. I boarded the cab within 2-3 minutes after because I typically tend to speak with people, whoever it is, whether it is a passenger on my flight next to me or whether it's a cabbie or whoever, in whichever country, right? And whichever nationality. So the cabbie, I just started saying 1 or 2 sentences and he started blurting out whatever problems he was having in his personal life, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? So here is this Lithuanian or Polish guy sharing his personal life problems with me, and why I don't know. So I just kind of tried to give him some mental support and say, yeah, don't worry, everything's fine, and blah 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 blah. And so all of these things have always led me to believe that there is this thing I know people instantly open up to me, and I have got actually I mentioned to you a couple of examples now, and it's happened so many times. So I don't need to make an extra effort to assure people, this is a safe space where you can open up. People know that. People will instinctively know that when they meet me, when they speak with me. So God has been kind that He's blessed me with these kind of traits, and again, as I mentioned, since last year when I was going through all these health crises, and then that led to a huge, prolonged period of reflection, and so this January, February, I decided to take the final plunge, and April I quit my job, and so that's how it is, and probably, hopefully, with the blessings of all of you, by middle of July, first or second week of July, I'll be starting my practice.
Awesome.
So just my company is in the final stages of the registration, and once that starts, I'll be. See, another unique thing. What I'm going to be offering is, I am going to be offering my services as a single window or a single point of delivery, where I will myself be offering transformation services, which includes coaching and non-clinical counseling. And if you have, for example, areas of clinical counseling, like clinical depression, major issues with anxiety, that kind of stuff, for which you need a clinical counselor, or you need a proper psychometric evaluation, or you are at a stage where medication is an absolute necessity, I am going to be tying up with multiple people who I will refer you to. So it's not that you come to me only for coaching or basic career counseling kind of stuff. And if you have other issues, you need to go somewhere else. If you want to go somewhere else, that's of course your choice. But it's like I would have people who, as external consultants, who can take care of any medicinal needs, medication needs, or for example, any evaluation needs, or for example, therapy, right? So
Right.
I will be providing the full spectrum
Awesome.
from coaching to psychiatry.
So if we can, let's rewind a little bit.
Sure.
Walk us through what was that phase between Jan and April, because it takes a lot to say, okay, I'm not going to be working anymore in a job, and instead I'm going to be donning this new identity, this new role, and do things in a certain way, right? So walk us through what happened between Jan, like what was that pivotal moment where you said in Jan, okay, looks like I'm going to be going this direction, and then by April you said, okay, I'm done with my old avatar, and now I'm going to be fully into being the transformational coach.
See, there are, if you allow me, I would like to
Mm-hmm.
take you back a few more months, not
Sure.
just Jan.
Mm-hmm.
It would actually start from October, when
Mm.
I told you I'm between August, September, and January. I had another shoulder injury in around
Mm.
October, November. In fact, it was in October during Durga Puja, which, as you know,
Mm.
is the biggest festival for us.
Mm.
And during that Durga Puja, it was on Shashti or Saptami, when I
Mm.
actually had a partial tear in one of my rotator cuff muscles.
Mm.
Okay. And
Mm.
I was like, naturally, that was so painful for a few weeks. I actually couldn't lie on bed. Also, I was like sleeping on
Mm.
my sofa for close to a month. And I was like
Mm.
wondering what the hell is going on? Why is this year
Mm.
so difficult for me?
Mm.
And then I kind of began to think, reflect again. As I was mentioning, I did a lot of reflection during this phase. And I really kind of told myself two things. And these are things not just, matlab, aise pravachan nahi hai. I
Mm.
genuinely believe in this, right? If God is making you face painful situations, there are two possible interpretations,
Mm.
only two.
Mm.
One, or at least these are the only two you should be looking at. Others do not consider.
Mm.
One, God is making you face these painful situations because God believes you have it in you to overcome them.
Mm.
He will not make somebody face painful situations who does not have it in him to
Right.
overcome the painful
Mm.
situation.
Mm.
That is number one. Number two, the second possibility is, think of steel,
Mm.
right? How does it get annealed? It gets annealed only when it is put through extreme pressure,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
How is diamond made? Only when you keep polishing, keep polishing, keep polishing.
Correct.
Only then
Mm.
will it become diamond, right?
Mm.
Similarly, if we want to reach our actual potential, we will
Mm.
necessarily go through very, 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 very difficult situations. If a path is
Mm.
easy, it will not take us to where we need to go.
Mm.
Right. And now
Mm.
to come back to your question. So I was kind of going through all these thoughts, all these things where I was thinking. And
Mm.
so from November, December, January, finally, sometime in January, to take the final plunge, I actually took a 3-4 day retreat, sojourn to North Bengal. You probably have heard of Kurseong. Have you heard of Kurseong?
Mm. Brief.
It's
In
basically a
passing. Mm.
small hill station in Darjeeling district,
Mm.
right? Uh, so I went to Kurseong for 3-4 days by myself. I didn't take my wife or daughter. I just went by myself to finally take a final firm decision, weigh all the pros and cons, and
Mm.
do some self-study, do some online R&D, and see what are the things that are possible, and all of
Mm.
that stuff. And then when I came back, I kind of, that was the time I told my family, my in-laws, wife, father, that this is it. And naturally, the biggest discouragement would come from them. Biggest
Mm.
discouragement came from my wife because I understand her perspective. She is like wondering, then chalega kaise?
Correct.
Same thing with my parents-in-law. My dad-in-law keeps telling me, "You think this is the age for adventure?" I said, "No, this is not adventure. I'm just following my passion. I'm not doing any adventure." So that's what. And my father, he realizes what I am doing. Obviously, there is still a lot of apprehension. He doesn't know whether
True.
I'll be able to make it.
Mm.
So, and I keep telling people, I have no doubt in my mind that I am going to make it, and not just make it, I'm going to make it big.
Mm.
Only question is whether I'll start making it big, whether it is going to be in 3 months, 5 months, or 6 months.
Mm.
That period, that duration, I'm not certain, of course. I
Mm.
don't know. But I am going to make it. Of that, I have no doubt whatsoever.
Mm.
So, if I have to share some insights or share some potential takeaways for this phase, point number one, two, three, four, five, six, maybe up to 1 to 100, you need to have the confidence in yourself that you can do
Mm.
it. If you don't have the confidence, nobody else is going to have the
Mm.
confidence and you will not make it. That
Mm.
is for sure.
Mm.
Next, very important point, if you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail.
Mm.
Very, very important. There's no
Mm.
alternative. And that's
Mm.
actually true for everything in life, but very
Mm.
important for this.
Mm.
Another very, very important is, if I am worried
Mm.
that right now I can't see any money coming in,
Mm.
so I am very skeptical or very apprehensive of investing on myself, or let's say investing in trainings that I need, investing
Mm.
in stuff that I'm which will actually hold me in good stead in the long run, then in a way I'm actually failing to prepare,
Mm.
which is what? Preparing to fail.
Correct.
Right. So
Mm.
these are three very important points. And then again, another very important thing is you need to have your key KPIs in place.
Mm.
What do I mean by that, and why do I specifically mention this?
Mm.
Let me explain that. What I'm going to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
I am not looking at it as a business.
Okay.
What do I mean by that? If I was looking at it as a business, for me, my profits, my profitability, my
Mm.
bottom lines, that would be the number one KPI, right?
Mm.
For me, my number one KPI, of course, that is a given that I need to be able to keep myself afloat.
Mm.
I am not compromising on that,
Mm.
right? I'm not compromising on that. But for me, a very, very important KPI
Mm-hmm.
is, because for me, this is a service I'm doing. I
Mm.
am utilizing my skills, my rare traits that I have been blessed with. I'm utilizing that
Mm.
to help people who will benefit from that service. For
Mm.
me, this is a service. For me, this is not a business from which I'm going to make crores. Again, I want to reiterate also that I have nothing, I'm not being critical of those for whom that means a lot. Of course, there will be
Mm.
plenty of people for whom that is important. I'm sure I have total respect for that, right?
Mm.
Because all of us have different worldviews which are conditioned by our own experiences. All of us are unique, which is what sets out men from machines. And men, I mean, in a like
Mm.
gender agnostic way. That is
Mm.
what distinguishes men from machines, right? You put the same, if you put the specific input to 10 transformers of the same specifications, you'll get the same outputs. You put the same inputs to 10 human beings, you'll get 10 different outputs,
Mm.
right? So it is very important that
Mm.
we operate from our own worldview, and our own worldview is determined by the experiences we have had since
Mm.
childhood. right?
Mm,
So there is no right or wrong. It all depends on how we look at things and what works for us. That's
mm,
all.
mm.
So this is
Beautiful.
what I wanted to share on this.
Mm. Very, very powerful. And this was what I had kind of sensed when we spoke last. Uh, that your story will definitely inspire people who are, in that initial phase of wanting to really commit
Hmm.
themselves to, whether you call it
Yes.
your purpose, whether you call it your calling, your vocation, where you feel
Exactly.
drawn to, to give back, to make a
Hmm.
difference in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's not, yes, of course, there are people who have already been doing this for a while, but
Yeah, sure.
it's like, as someone said, we all have to start somewhere. And
Of course.
you have, heeded that call, you have listened to that call. And thank you for
Yes.
sharing so intimately your journey, especially the last year. And
Mm.
what perfect timing that it's literally been a year of from where you were
Absolutely.
to where you are
Literally one
today,
year. Literally
right?
1 year.
So
Mm.
so that was really beautiful to hear and to see how you're in that process of shifting. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also wanting to share
Mm-hmm.
that, again, just a few more thoughts
Mm-hmm.
for people who are still maybe wondering whether to take the plunge or not.
Mm,
Yeah. So, number one, if you don't take the plunge, you will never know.
correct.
And you wouldn't want to be on your deathbed thinking, if only I had done that,
Mm,
right? As
mm,
they say, a ship is safe in a harbor, but that's not
mm,
what it was designed for,
mm,
right? So
mm,
until and unless we take the plunge, we won't know. Of
mm,
course, we need to prepare for it. Of course, we need to train ourselves for it, right?
mm,
Of course, we need to, have things in place, have a backup plan in place. All
mm,
that is important.
mm,
But we need to take the first step. Also, another important point is to remember that it is that, and this is something I have been myself guilty of in my younger years. I was a fair bit of a perfectionist. In certain
mm,
cases, I still am.
mm,
But especially in the real world, in particular in the world of business, or as I prefer to call myself, in the world of self employment, right? Perfection will never be attained.
mm,
And if we wait for a time till the time our product or our service offering is perfectly designed, then we shall never be able to start,
mm,
right?
mm,
There can and there will be multiple iterations.
mm,
It does not mean we have to wait for the
mm,
perfect version. We can and we will keep redesigning and refining the product or the service.
mm,
But as long as other things are in place, we need to make a start. Then we can kind of keep refining it, right?
mm.
So,
Right.
yeah, this is something else I just wanted to
Yeah.
share. I think it
That's
was
beautiful.
important. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful. And so, two things, of course. One is if you could
Mm-hmm.
share, at where you are at this point. You did
Mm-hmm.
mention at the beginning that you're in the process right now of, finalizing and having like your company and the formal structure. But in terms of,
Yes.
and I say this also because our audience is primarily healers and coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about, let's say, one is of course the marketing, but also
Mm-hmm.
the program that you're intending to run, or the what is it
Okay.
that you're intending to offer people, what is it that
Okay.
someone can expect. And a second
Mm-hmm.
part to that question is, in especially nowadays we talk a lot about segmentation on or creating your own niche, right? So your own
Mm-hmm.
niche. So what
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts on that?
Uh, See, I model myself a lot on my coach,
Mm,
right? I'll
mm,
model myself a lot on him, and so what Mrinal does is he basically uses a methodology,
mm,
right? he doesn't have any specific niche per se, but
Mm.
formally he is a mental toughness coach,
Mm.
and mental toughness is kind of something you can use for
Mm.
most particular
Right.
segments or niches or something.
Mm.
So I am going to be looking at something very similar, or like you mentioned, I think you've titled the segment "Rooted in Resilience."
Mm.
So my primary, let's say, areas of focus are going to be mindset and resilience.
Mm.
I will be looking at how we can work with, how I can work with my clients on helping them modify their mindset,
Mm.
how I can help them build their resilience, their
Mm.
fortitude, right? So this is my main focus, right?
Mm.
So if you want to kind of, if you're thinking of looking, if you're looking at how I would call myself, I would call myself a mindset and resilience coach,
Got it.
right?
Mm.
Now, specific niches. So as I mentioned, there were a number of areas I would be working. One is stress management. One is,
Mm.
let's say, helping people work with their mindsets.
Mm.
Of course, there would be areas like, or even uh, let's say, behavior management in kids, for example.
Mm.
Then it could be minor issues, anything very severe which requires psychotherapy, I'm not getting into because
Mm.
that is outside my scope.
Mm.
But minor issues related to, let's say, relationship compatibility,
Mm.
maybe premarital counseling,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Premarital, not actual marriage counseling. Again, there also, if it's something minor, little bit of friction is okay, but if it's very
Mm.
serious, then I'll pass it on. Okay, then career counseling, higher education, even career counseling for people who are already in industry, different
Mm.
stages. How
Mm.
to, I mean, issues in terms of handling a toxic work environment,
Mm.
workplace stress, all these kind of areas. This will
Mm.
all be part of my scope because I will essentially be looking at these from the prism of mindset management, and or rather mind getting mind shifts done
Mm.
and building fortitude and resilience.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. So, Amlan, maybe now is that phase where you can. I know you did mention one of your mentors, but
Mm,
and two of them, in fact. But if you can
mm,
share with us in this segment,
mhm,
which is called
mhm.
the journey of mentors, right? Walk us
Yeah.
through. Who are some of these mentors that came into your life in your journey, and
Mhm.
how has their presence shaped your life? And you can also talk about what they did for you, the kind of work that they do. So this is that segment which is basically, where you can share your gratitude, express your gratitude for people
Yes,
that came into your life.
got you, got you. So I would like mentors, my mentors. I am sure you would agree they do
Hmm.
not need to be formally trained as or
Sure.
acknowledged like in a public space as coaches or something.
Hmm.
I would first start off with by mentioning three people who have been very, very pivotal or
Mm.
very, very important in how I have developed over the last 6 to 8 months.
Mm.
Siddharth Rajshekar, as I mentioned,
Mm.
he
Mm.
gave me the confidence that I could work in this space and do
Mm.
something meaningful. So,
Mm.
Siddharth, of course, to him, a big vote of thanks.
Mm.
Second, very importantly, somebody you probably would know or at least have heard of, Thaddeus Lawrence.
Mm.
Very, very extremely, extremely inspiration, absolute like source of
Mm.
enthusiasm, energy. The way he motivates all of us in his trainings, amazing. And watching him do some personal one-to-one coaching in some of our online sessions is a huge learning experience. So
Mm.
Thaddeus Lawrence, of course, also I learned a fair bit from one the coach, a lead trainer in one of my trainings I attended in May,
Mm.
somebody by the name of Mac Attram. He's
Mm.
a business coach based in the UK. And another person, of course, He's referred to in the Success Gyan universe as the master of masters, Blair Singer.
Mm.
Absolute privilege to have learned from him.
Mm.
So these four people, absolutely, absolutely, it's a huge privilege to have learned from them.
Mm.
And of course, as I mentioned, I am extremely fortunate because not everyone has this opportunity
Mm.
to make a friend, somebody who's a good friend, make the friend his guru.
Mm.
I am extremely fortunate that a very good friend of mine, Rinal Chakravarti, is my guru, my mentor, my trainer, my coach. He's training me in NLP, he's training me in how to do counseling,
Mm.
and it is an absolute privilege and a huge, huge learning every time I watch him do counseling, real
Mm.
time. When I watch him in real time do counseling for people, his he is such a mind blowing experience, and it is actually very inspiring seeing the way he emphasizes discipline, emphasizes physical fitness. If you meet him, you'll realize he's built like a bodybuilder
Mm.
because he puts in that kind of work on his own body
Mm.
every single day, and he travels a hell of a lot. And every day that he's in Kolkata, he drives like 45 minutes to an hour to go to his preferred gym, works out heavy, does heavy workout for about 45 minutes to an hour, then drives back all the way. And he does that every single day he's in Kolkata,
Mm.
irrespective of what day of the week or whatever it is.
Mm.
So his dedication to his craft, his dedication to constantly keep learning. He, in fact, was telling me, whatever you're learning, please come and show me. Then I can also learn. And
Mm.
it was like, it's very inspiring the way he has this incredible hunger to learn all the time.
Mm.
Very humbling and it's very, very motivating.
Mm.
And finally, for me, the single biggest mentor, guru, trainer, friend, anchor, pole star, lodestar, everything was my mom.
Mm.
Was, I wouldn't say was, she still is. I believe she still is somewhere around me,
Mm.
right? Because, yeah. And the very interesting thing, I nowadays speak, and I actually feel a little guilty about this.
Mm.
I speak more with her in these almost close to 10 years that she's been gone than I did in the 10 years before that.
Mm.
So this is something I feel very odd and guilty about. So again, to all your viewers,
Mm.
please value your seniors, your family members, your parents, grandparents.
Mm.
They may not be there tomorrow.
Sure. Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
it. And
Awesome.
yeah.
So, as we start to wrap, Amlan, if
Yeah,
is
sure.
this is one question to you,
Yeah,
is there a
please.
question that you wished I would have asked you, which I haven't yet?
Very interesting. Yeah, maybe I did think could probably have asked, like, what does the future hold for me in terms of whether I intend to do this all my life,
Mm.
whether this is something I see myself doing only for a few years,
Mm.
or whether, like today, of course, my company is an OPC, a one-person company, right?
Mm.
But is this like what my future plans are regarding my practice?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, tell us more.
Okay, good. So yes, I intend things to be like this for the time being because I want to first stabilize,
Mm.
build my own equity, establish myself as somebody people think of whenever they have a situation where they
Mm.
need help. So initially, of course, I expect to get clients based on the promos I do, based on word of
Mm.
mouth, referrals, etc.
Mm.
But other than that, once I don't need to do that. For example, Mrinal today doesn't need to do any promo. Like anyway, he gets so many clients that he cannot handle
Mm.
that. Like there's a huge waiting time for him to be able to give people time. So
Mm.
I want to reach that kind of a level, or at least if not that kind, because he's been around 18, 19 years, at least to reach a level where my kind of inflow there's a constant inflow and people know my name well.
Mm.
right? So if they Google, for example, coaches in Kolkata, my name comes up in the first page of the search engine
Mm.
results, right?
Mm.
So once that is done, I do have a vision of expanding my practice, converting this from an OPC to a private limited company, and
Mm.
uh, going and kind of expanding the scale of the work.
Mm.
Maybe getting on board, probably not maybe, getting on board maybe a couple of other counselors
Mm.
and coaches, onboarding clinical psychologists, onboarding maybe one or two psychiatrists, kind of
Mm.
expand. Today, the other services which I'm providing in tie up with other people, other
Mm.
experts, I want to kind of have all of them on board itself,
Mm.
right? So that it's a single and have that in a proper place. As in,
Mm.
today I will be working myself out of my own office,
Mm.
but it should be a proper establishment where everybody comes and sits in their own chambers.
Mm.
So that is the
Beautiful.
kind of vision I have. And
Mm.
whether I want to continue, yes, I want to continue this at least for the next 15, 20 years. Hopefully I'll be healthy another 20,
Mm.
20, 20 years. Let's see. Life is very uncertain. So, but at
Mm.
least, yeah, let's see. And another thing is, I genuinely believe, and I would genuinely encourage anybody kind of dithering, sitting on the fence,
Mm.
please take the plunge. The market out here is immense because of the conditions the world is in.
Mm.
Uh, you probably would know this term, Rahul. This is very much a VUCA world, right? And for
Mm.
those who do not know, this is VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I've in
Mm.
fact developed my own spin-off of this abbreviation, which I'll unveil at a later point in
Mm.
time. But it's a VUCA world, and people are really, really more and more in need of coaching, more and more in need of such support.
Mm.
So if you are somebody who believes he or she is capable of this, who is qualified for this, please
Mm.
do jump in. It's a
Mm.
genuine, I mean, it's not that I'm not somebody who would say, no, 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 if I get in somebody, there will be more competition. No, the more the
Mm.
merrier.
Mm.
Please jump in. Please jump in. This is something because all of us, especially who are, let's say, those of us who are, let's say, past our mid 40s, all of us have so much to contribute to youngsters, to people who are still finding their way. This is a very, very, and all, even though I haven't started, based on my experiences, whatever I've
Mm.
done informally, because I have done a lot of this stuff informally. It's just that I've never charged people for it.
Mm.
So based on whatever I mean, it's so rewarding and so enriching.
Mm.
I I cannot just say that I cannot strongly enough emphasize how important it is, and once you get
Mm.
into it, how rewarding it is. I'm sure Rahul, you're way more experienced, and I'm
Mm.
sure you can attest to this yourself.
Mm. Absolutely. It is. It is truly living a blessing every day, where you get to help people, you get to be
Absolutely,
paid for
absolutely.
it,
Yes,
right? It's like the best of both
yes,
worlds.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly, absolutely.
Nice. So, Amlan, wish you all the best on your journey, and may many, 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 many people be benefited by your uh, your passion, your purpose,
Thank you,
and your intention to make this world a better place. And
thank you, thank you.
what better time than it's like, now a year from now, when you reflect on the journey, yeah, you'll be like, yeah, you know what, 2 years ago that happened, but here I am 2 years later, and
Thank you. Yes.
growing in so many aspects and making such a big difference in the lives of so many.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And before we wrap up, I just want to
sure.
leave our audience with one important thought.
Mm.
If things go the way we want it, be happy.
Mm.
If they don't go the way we want it, be happier.
Mm.
Because then all that means is that things are going as per God's plan,
Mm.
not as per our plan. And God's plan will
Right.
always be better for us in the long run than what we
Mm.
want
Mm. Beautiful.
for ourselves.
Very, very powerful. And of course, all your social details are, they will be tagged
Sure.
in the pod.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
And
sure.
people can, I also recommend people to reach out to you so that they can follow along
Yes.
with you, and as you
Yes.
grow, they also get to grow, and they're benefited by all your insights that you're going to keep
Sure.
developing and sharing with them. So wish you all the best. And of course,
Thank you,
for
Rahul.
those
Yeah.
of you who are, thank you so much for that, Aumlan. Those of you who are, who've reached this point, obviously you have connected to Aumlan's story and Aumlan's energy. And as I said, you can now continue to follow him and follow his journey. And of course, as always, remember to live your purpose. You are meant to be here in this world making a difference, and to, sort of like draw from what Omlan was saying, that this is a really beautiful time to be able to help more people. More people are hungry today to be helped, to be able to be healed. So there are more and more spaces for people like us to get into the space and to make a difference in more and more people's lives. So, having said all of that, of course, as always, remember to live your purpose. And of course, we will be back with more such curated podcasts. And lastly, of course, Omlan, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the
Thank you for
time.
having me. Thank you for
It's been
having
an
me.
absolute pleasure and wish you all the best. Give me one quick
Thank
second
you.
while I close the stream, and then we'll wrap up here.